The man begging on the streets of Abuja wasn't just homeless. He was the billionaire owner of Nigeria's largest company. He didn't know it yet, because after a brutal car crash he had lost his memory, and everything else. While he slept under bridges, his corrupt COO was stealing his empire. But the truth was about to explode, and when it did, the whole country would be watching. By day, Emeka Okafor was a lion among men. He ran Okafor Holdings, the kind of company that shaped entire cities, real estate, oil, technology, you name it, he owned a piece. Politicians begged for his attention. Investors worshipped him, and when Emeka walked into a room, silence followed. He didn't smile much. He didn't waste words. But he was feared, respected, and filthy rich. That evening, the sun bled across Abuja's skyline as his black Mercedes glided through traffic. The AC was cold, the leather seats spotless, but Emeka was boiling inside. He'd just left a high-stakes meeting with government officials who were dragging their feet on his next billion-naira real estate project. His jaw tightened as he gripped the wheel. "If they don't sign this week, I'll pull out of the whole zone," he muttered to himself. "Let Bala handle the fallout. I didn't build this empire to beg for favors." His mind was busy calculating profits, threats, and competitors. He didn't see the truck. Not until it was too late. In one deafening instant, steel crushed steel. Glass exploded into the air like diamonds. The black Mercedes flipped. Once, twice. Then, silence. When Emeka opened his eyes, the stars above Abuja looked unfamiliar. His body ached. His head pounded like a war drum. He tried to speak, but the words didn't come. He wasn't in a hospital. He wasn't in his car. He wasn't anyone. Strangers leaned over him, murmuring things he couldn't understand. Everything was blurry, like his life had been wiped clean. "Where am I?" he whispered. No one answered. He tried to stand, but his legs betrayed him. The world spun. His ears rang. Who am I?" No answer. Just footsteps walking away. For 2 days, he lay under a pedestrian bridge with nothing but scraps of cardboard and the shirt on his back. People passed him like he was invisible. His once clean skin was now stained with dirt. His eyes, once cold and calculating, were now blank, hollow, lost. He didn't know his name. He didn't know he had once dined with senators. He didn't know he used to fly private jets to Dubai for brunch. He was just a nameless man. A forgotten soul in the heart of Nigeria's capital. And just like that, the man who once signed billion-naira deals from a glass tower now had to beg for bread on the street corner. The hardest part of being lost isn't that no one knows who you are. It's that you don't even know yourself. Days passed. He wandered Abuja's streets like a shadow, nameless, barefoot, broken. The sun scorched his back by day. The cold bit into his bones at night. He drank from leaky taps and ate leftovers from public dustbins. Sometimes he cried without knowing why. Other times he just stared, numb, blank, hollow. People looked at him with disgust. Some clutched their bags, others turned away. Yeah, man, you're strong and full, go and work. I beg, don't touch me. But how do you work when you don't even know who you are? One evening, just as the sky turned grey and the city's noise began to settle, he slumped beside a wall behind a market stall. His stomach twisted in pain. His mouth was dry. He hadn't eaten in 2 days. Then came a voice, rough but warm. "You look like hell, man." He looked up. A tall, lean man with tired eyes and a scruffy beard stood before him. He wore tattered jeans, a torn shirt, and old bathroom slippers that had been patched more times than a government promise. In his hand was half a loaf of bread. "You want?" the man asked, holding it out. The billionaire turned beggar hesitated, and slowly he nodded. The man broke the bread and handed him a piece. It was stale, dry. But that bite tasted better than any 5-star meal Emeka had ever had. "Name's Tunde," the man said, sitting beside him. "You?" he asked. Silence. The former CEO looked down, ashamed. I don't know." Tunde didn't laugh. He didn't mock. He simply nodded. "Then until you remember, I'll just call you brother." From that moment, they were two souls bound by circumstance. Tunda showed him how to navigate the streets, where to sleep without getting harassed, which corners had kind vendors who left scraps, how to avoid the gangs that roamed at night like wolves. Tunde had been homeless for 6 years. A construction accident cost him his job. His injury cost him his home. Life had no safety net, so the streets became his address. "You learn to live one day at a time," he said one night, as they huddled beneath a flyover. "And if you're lucky, someone offers you half a loaf." The man once known as Amika watched this world with silent eyes. He saw children born on sidewalks. He saw men eat from the same bins dogs fought over. He saw women sleep with strangers just for soap or spaghetti. And somewhere, deep inside, something began to shift. He didn't remember his name, but he was slowly remembering what it meant to be human. He had once climbed towers. Now he was learning to survive at rock bottom. Sometimes it takes a stranger to remind you that you matter. It was a Tuesday, hot, sticky, and loud, like most days in Abuja. The streets buzzed with shouting traders, honking cars, and impatient commuters. But inside a small, modest soup kitchen, the noise faded. There, Emeka sat quietly at the end of a long bench. His shirt hung loosely over his bony frame. His hands trembled slightly as he held the warm plastic bowl filled with rice and beans. He had come here 3 times already that week, but never spoke to anyone. Until she noticed him. Her name was Aisha. She was young, maybe late 20s. Bright eyes, a calm, almost angelic presence. Not flashy, not loud, just kind. While others served food and looked away, Aisha looked people in the eye. She asked for their names. She asked about their day. She spoke to the broken like they were whole. And when her eyes landed on Amika, something clicked. "You're new here, aren't you?" she asked softly. Amika looked up. Her voice was different, gentle, not pitying. He nodded once. "What's your name?" she asked. He opened his mouth, paused, and whispered, I don't know." No laughter, no judgment. Just a soft smile. "That's okay," she said. "We all lose our way sometimes." That small moment cracked something open. She didn't treat him like dirt. She didn't flinch when he looked at her with tired, unwashed eyes. She spoke to him like he was someone. The next day, she came back with something. "Here," she said, placing a small notebook and pen in front of him. "Sometimes writing helps." He stared at it, unsure. "Write anything," Aisha said. "Words, images, dreams. Doesn't have to make sense." That night, under a bridge lit by flickering streetlights, he opened the book. At first, the pages stayed blank. Then, slowly, he wrote. Tall buildings, glass table, pressure, power, alone. The sound of money counting machines. His hand trembled, his mind was foggy, but the words kept coming. They didn't fit. They didn't explain much. But they were pieces of a puzzle, a past that refused to stay buried. Over the next few days, Amika returned to the soup kitchen, not just for food, but for Aisha. She read his scribbles, never mocking, always listening. And when he asked about her, she shared. "I grew up in a rough neighborhood," she said. "Saw too many friends lose hope. I promised I'd never stand by and do nothing. This soup kitchen? It's my way of fighting back." He stared at her, moved. She had nothing, but gave everything. "I believe everyone deserves a second chance," Aisha told him one evening, "no matter how far they've fallen." Those words sat in Amika's chest like a warm coal. He didn't know his name. But maybe he was more than just a homeless man. Maybe he still had something to offer this world. And for the first time in months, he didn't feel like a ghost anymore. When a king disappears, vultures don't mourn, they circle. Back in the gleaming towers of Abuja's central business district, there was chaos inside the boardroom of Akafor Holdings. Phones rang non-stop, emails flooded in, investors were panicking. The CEO, Emeka Akafor, had vanished, without warning. No statement, no press release, no funeral. Just silence. And where there's silence in business, someone always steps in to fill it. His name was Mr. Bala. Sharp suit, sharper smile. Mr. Bala was the chief operating officer, second in command. But second was never enough for him. For years, he had studied Emeka, admired his power, envied his control, hated his cold efficiency. And when the crash happened, Bala didn't cry. He saw opportunity. "Gentlemen," he said during a secret board meeting, "we don't know where Mr. Akafor is, but the company must move forward." The board members looked uneasy. Stocks were already dipping. Rumors were spreading. "We need strong, decisive leadership," Bala continued. "Until Emeka is found, I'll act as interim CEO." There was some resistance, but also fear. And Bala knew how to use fear. The vote passed. He took the seat. And the throne was his. But Mr. Bala wasn't interested in protecting the company. He wanted to bleed it. Within days, he signed shady contracts with offshore partners. He rerouted funds into secret accounts. He fired whistleblowers. He paid private investigators not to find Emeka, but to bury the story. "If the world believes he's dead," Bala whispered to himself, sipping imported whiskey, "then I become untouchable." But not everyone was fooled. Chinedu, Emeka's longtime friend and personal aide, smelled something rotten. He'd worked beside Emeka for over a decade. He knew the man better than anyone. And this didn't feel like an accident. One late evening, he leaned across the table and whispered to Ngozi, the company's legal advisor. "Something's not right. Emeka wouldn't just vanish, not like this. And Bala, he's moving too fast, like he was ready for this." Ngozi frowned. She'd already noticed discrepancies in the accounts. "You think Bala planned this?" Chinedu nodded. "I think Emeka didn't disappear. I think he was erased." From that moment, the two launched a silent investigation. They went through financials, tracked shadow partners, recorded conversations. And slowly, a picture formed, a dark, twisted puzzle. At the center of it all was Bala. But they had to move carefully. If Bala found out, they wouldn't just lose their jobs. They might lose their lives. And as Bala smiled in press photos and gave speeches to shareholders, he had no idea that the man he thought was dead was alive, watching, remembering. Sometimes it takes just one image to awaken 1,000 truths. It was a bright, chaotic afternoon in Abuja, the kind where sweat clings to your skin and horns refuse to rest. Emeka and Tunde wandered through the crowded Garki market, weaving between Okada riders, pepper sellers, and arguing traders. Tunde was in search of old clothes. Emeka, as usual, was silent, his eyes scanning faces, signs, colors. Something felt different today. He couldn't explain it, like something in the air was calling to him. And then he heard it. "Breaking news! New updates in the Emeka Akafor disappearance case." The voice blared from a dusty TV hanging in the corner of a phone accessories stall. A small crowd had gathered. Tunde paused. Emeka froze. Something inside him twisted. He pushed through the people. His heartbeat thudded in his ears. And then he saw it. A photo on the screen. His photo. Clean-shaven, black suit, cold stare. The man he used to be. Emeka Akafor, CEO of Akafor Holdings, has been missing for nearly 3 months following a reported car crash in the Central District. The crowd murmured. But Emeka couldn't hear them. The world tilted. Flashes exploded in his mind. Glass, screams, blood, lights, boardrooms, deals, betrayals, contracts, pressure. His breathing grew shallow. His knees buckled. "That's me," he whispered. Tunde caught him as he stumbled. "Wait, what did you say?" "That's me. My name is Emeka." Suddenly it all made sense. The dreams, the words in the notebook, the flashes of luxury, power, responsibility. He wasn't a nameless ghost. He was Emeka Akafor, a billionaire, a builder of empires, a man whose disappearance had rocked the nation. And while he begged for scraps on the street, another man was stealing his legacy. "I have to go," he muttered, panicked. Go where? Tunde asked, confused. Back. I need to get back. My company, my name, my life. But then he stopped, looked back at Tunde, at the crowd, at his own tattered clothes. Will they even believe me? Will they care who I was, or just see who I've become? He didn't know. But one thing was clear. The man who had ruled the city had just remembered his throne, and it was time to take it back. When a man rises from the dust, the world better be ready. The sky was dark by the time Emeka found his way back to the soup kitchen. His heart was pounding, not from fear, but from purpose. Inside, Aisha was wiping down tables, the last bowl of rice gone, the last child fed. When she saw him standing at the doorway, clothes dusty, eyes burning with a strange fire, she paused. Emeka, she said softly, noticing the change. He nodded. Then with a trembling voice he said what had been buried inside him for months. I remember. Everything. Aisha stepped closer. Who are you? She asked gently. My name is Emeka Akafor. I was the CEO of Akafor Holdings. I had a car crash months ago. I lost my memory. And while I was down here, lost, alone, someone took over everything I built. A silence fell. Then a whisper. You're the missing billionaire. Tunde, who had just entered, dropped the bag of bread he was carrying. You? That's you? Emeka turned to him, eyes filled with pain and gratitude. I don't know what kind of man I used to be, but I know who helped me become human again. You two. They sat together under the night sky. No titles, no money, no lies. Just 3 souls. One broken, one kind, one loyal. Emeka explained everything he remembered. The crash, the company, the man named Bala. He didn't want revenge. He wanted to make things right, and he knew exactly where to start. The next morning, Emeka found his old notebook and flipped to the back. He scribbled one name, Chinedu. He's the only one I ever trusted in that company. If he's still alive in there, he'll help me. With the help of Aisha and Tunde, Emeka found a call center cafe. It took 5 tries, but finally, ring, ring, click. Hello? Chinedu, it's me. Silence. Who is this? Emeka, I'm alive. Chinedu didn't speak for 5 seconds. Then he exploded. What? Emeka, my God, where are you? We all thought... Listen, Emeka interrupted. I don't have time. Bala has taken everything, hasn't he? Yes, he's destroying everything. But we've been collecting evidence, waiting for a miracle. And now, you're it. That night, Emeka stared out over the city. He wasn't the same man who had ruled from glass towers. He was something more now. He had survived pain, tasted poverty, and learned the value of a kind hand. He didn't want to just take back power. He wanted to use it differently. And this time, he wasn't going back alone. He turned to Tunde and Aisha. I'm going to reclaim my company, but I want you both to walk with me into that boardroom. Because this wasn't just a comeback. It was a reckoning. You don't bury a man like Emeka Akafor. You just give him time to rise. Akafor Holdings Tower stood tall and gleaming, piercing the Abuja skyline like a monument to wealth and ambition. Inside, the executive boardroom buzzed with tension. At the head of the table sat Mr. Bala, draped in a designer suit and flanked by advisors who now whispered fear instead of praise. The company was bleeding. Shareholders were nervous, and Bala's mask of confidence was starting to crack. But he wasn't worried, because as far as the world knew, Emeka Akafor was dead. That's when the door opened, and everything froze. Every head turned. A chair scraped back. One woman gasped, and there he stood, Emeka, alive, leaner, battle-worn, but unbroken. He wore a simple blazer, no security, no show, just calm eyes, and a folder tucked under his arm. Good morning, Emeka said, voice cool and even. I believe we have some important matters to discuss. Bala went pale. This is a joke, he stammered. Who let him in here? Sit down, Emeka replied, not even raising his voice. You've been playing CEO long enough? He placed the folder on the table. Chinedu stepped forward, Emeka's right hand, now glowing with pride. The documents in this file include evidence of Mr. Bala's illegal contracts, embezzlement, and abuse of company funds, Chinedu said sharply. Bank statements, signed deals with ghost partners, wire transfers to offshore accounts. The boardroom turned into a graveyard of silence. One by one, the board members flipped through the documents, their expressions darkening. Ngozi, the legal advisor, stood. Based on these findings, and in accordance with the company's emergency reinstatement clause, we move to immediately remove Mr. Bala from all positions of power. Effective now. Bala lunged to his feet. You can't do this, he was gone, the man was dead. Emeka leaned in. You should have made sure. Security entered the room. As Bala was escorted out, he turned to Emeka with one last glare. You think this is over? Emeka didn't flinch. For you, it is. When the room settled, Emeka looked around. The men and women who once feared his ambition now saw something different. Humility, strength, purpose. I made mistakes, Emeka said. I built a company, but I forgot the people. That ends today. He turned to the wide glass window behind him, the city glittering below. We're not just building buildings anymore. We're building lives. And just like that, the king reclaimed his crown. But this time his throne wasn't made of gold. It was made of grit and grace. Power gave him control. Pain gave him purpose. The next morning the sun rose gently over Abuja. But for the first time in months, Emeka wasn't looking down from a skyscraper. He was walking the streets, hand in hand with a mission. He'd just reclaimed Akafor Holdings. But instead of celebrating with champagne or press conferences, Emeka walked quietly into the old soup kitchen. And this time, he wasn't a beggar. He was a man on a mission. Aisha and Tunde were already inside, serving food, mopping floors, laughing with the children. When they saw Emeka step in, clean, calm, confident, they froze. But his next words brought them to tears. I'm launching something new, he said, voice steady. A foundation, nationwide, built to support the forgotten ones, just like me. Shelters, job training, meals, medical support. He took a deep breath. And I want you both to lead it. Tunde shook his head in disbelief. Me? I sleep under a bridge, Emeka. I have nothing. Emeka stepped closer. That's where you're wrong, my brother. You gave me more than any man in a mansion ever has. Aisha blinked rapidly, her eyes wet with emotion. But why us? Emeka smiled. Because you helped a stranger when no one else did. You saw a human being when the world saw garbage. And that's the kind of vision I want leading this. And so, the Akafor Second Chance Foundation was born. The first shelter opened in Gwagwalada. The second followed in Jos, then Kaduna, then Enugu. They fed the hungry, housed the broken, taught the forgotten how to dream again. And at the heart of it all, Tunde and Aisha. They didn't just run the foundation, they transformed it. Emeka sold off his yachts. He shut down luxury homes he no longer needed. And every naira redirected became a lifeline for someone else. He visited schools, spoke at youth centers, held hands with orphans. The press couldn't get enough of it. The billionaire who became homeless and then gave it all back. But Emeka didn't care about the headlines anymore, because this time, he was building something that would outlive him. He used to chase money. Now, he chased meaning. Some men build towers, others build legacies. Emeka did both. The ribbon was red. The crowd was quiet. Children peeked out from behind their mothers. Men stood tall, wiping sweat from their brows. Reporters whispered as cameras rolled. In the heart of Abuja, on land that once belonged to a corrupt developer, now stood something new. The Tunde Aisha Resource Center, a tall, beautiful building, painted in warm yellow with wide windows and green gardens. Inside were classrooms, kitchens, beds, job training halls, and healing. Everything Emeka never had when he was lost. And on this day, he wasn't standing on a podium. He stood between Aisha and Tunde, both now dressed in simple, proud attire, holding hands like family. "Ladies and gentlemen," the MC said, "please welcome Mr. Emeka Okafor, not just a businessman but a builder of second chances." The crowd clapped, but Emeka raised a hand gently. He didn't walk to the microphone. Instead, he walked to the plaque on the building's wall. He wiped a small tear, then read the engraving aloud. "Dedicated to those who loved me when I didn't know who I was. To the ones who gave me bread, not judgment. You reminded me I was still human." Later that day, Emeka sat alone beneath a mango tree in the compound, watching kids kick a ball made of tied rags. Their laughter rang out across the center. A small boy with a torn shirt ran up to him. "Uncle Emeka, are you really a billionaire?" Emeka chuckled. "I used to be." "So, you're not anymore?" He looked up, eyes calm. "Depends on how you measure wealth, little man." The boy nodded, even if he didn't fully understand, and ran off. Aisha joined him, holding a glass of Zobo. "You did it," she said softly. "You turned your fall into a future." He smiled. "No, we did it." That night, Emeka stood at the rooftop of the center. The city glowed below. The stars above watched in silence. And in that moment, he wasn't CEO. He wasn't homeless. He wasn't a victim or a hero. He was simply Emeka, a man who had fallen hard and risen higher, not with gold, but with grace. And in the quiet of that Abuja night, the man the world had forgotten became the man the world would remember, not for how he ruled, but for how he rebuilt.